دكتور بدر نبدأ.
افضل نبدا الله يسلمك لان الساعه 1 واحنا عندنا 1 اور سلوت. تفضل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم، أسعد الله مساءكم بكل خير. اسمحوا لي أن أتكلم بالإنجليزي للمشاركين الأجانب اللي معانا. Members of Bahrain Chamber, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to all. As you are all aware that we are living and experiencing unprecedented time never experienced before in our time. Pandemic hit us very hard. However, there's always opportunity with crisis if we understand really the challenges and how to turn it in our favor. Allow me to explain the difference of this crisis with financial crisis which hit us in 2008. The financial crisis was a demand crisis. What do I mean by that? In financial crisis, market crashed, people lost their jobs and lost homes due to unpaid debt. Investors lost their money in the stock market. And here in Bahrain, many were affected by that in property business. And it took a long time till things recovered slowly and gradually. But this crisis, however, the COVID-19 pandemic, is a health crisis, which led to supply crisis. The supply chain. Delay of goods resulted in price increase, reduced revenue for some. However, we know that once all our people are vaccinated and restrictions are removed, we will see fast turnaround and huge market shift to recovery. And question that we need to ask ourselves is, are we ready for that paradigm shift? And will we be able to cope with the demand? We already began to see the demand on certain goods and raw material like aluminum and steel and food and other commodities are raising. So, over the past year, there has been a lot of interest in robotic and applications of artificial intelligence technologies. With automation business, you can really reduce the cost, improve productivity. Let me give you some statistics. According to PwC, implementing robotic automation, process automation, cost organizations approximately 1/3 of an outsourced employee and around 10% the amount of an on-set employee, all while reducing process time by up to 90%. It is no brainer the benefit of robotic process adoption. We at Industry and Energy Committee think that digitization can tremendously impact the sector in a positive way and bring many benefits for company. Hence, we have organized this event to increase awareness. To start with some facts and figures, we have conducted a survey to assess the readiness of our industry sector for digitalization. Today, we will share with you our findings, and this will set the scene for further discussion and further actions. Once again, I would like to thank the team behind the event, especially Dr. Badr and Mr. Adnan and the team in chamber. Wish you all the best and hope you will benefit from this event and take action in your company in order to succeed and grow. Thank you. Back to you, Dr.
Hello everybody. I would like to welcome you to this webinar. Thank you, Mr. Farid, for being the keynote speaker. Now, my name is Badr Mannai. I'm a member of this committee and an academic faculty at University of Bahrain. I'll be also your host and at the same time a speaker. Mr. Adnan Mahmoud sends his apologies as he had an urgent matter to attend to. On board with us here we have Mr. Dilip George, who is a member in this committee and also the CEO of Bahrain Steel Company. Now he will take us through his company's experience as recently they conducted a massive factory digitization project where I'll follow later on with a local study conducted on the manufacturing sector in Kingdom of Bahrain. Finally, we'll have the Q&A. To start off, as a committee, Industry and Energy Committee, we had a goal to promote sustainability and growth within this industry. So we all notice now in the media that there is a big drive towards the fourth industrial revolution, the advancement of technology, having digitalization on board. We also noticed that there is a big discussion going on about cybersecurity. Now, all of these are basically related. So we felt it's important to highlight this and to shed a light on what's going on because it has a big impact on our sustainability. And why do I say that? Because we are in the middle of the downstream. So definitely either we are customers or suppliers, we definitely will be affected. Currently it's a ledger. Definitely tomorrow it will not be a ledger. So there should be planning and there should be understanding of what is happening. I know that all of us have questions such as, is this a threat? Is this an opportunity? What actions need to be taken? Okay, if I would like to take actions, what should be taken on board? Now, hopefully during this session, we will highlight important aspects that if you are interested in moving forward or you are actually preparing for it, hopefully this event will address it in a very specific and detailed situation. Now, to start off, I'm just going to give a brief intro into this phenomena so that we're all aware about what is being discussed in details throughout this webinar. Just gonna start sharing my screen with you guys. Hopefully you can see the screen. Is it possible to see it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So let's take this into context. Why they call it the fourth revolution? Basically, looking back at history, we can see that the end of the 18th century, we started, or the industry started with the steam-based machines. And then by the early 20th century, we had a movement into the electrical and mass production, especially with the automotive industry. Then there was a big spread at the start of the 1970s where computers were actually taking place within the manufacturing operations. So we all are within this phase. We know it, we've been experiencing it. What has happened? Why is this all being now discussed? Now, one of the most important things that's changing around the world is the use of internet and how actually data is transferred, as well as the importance of artificial intelligence moving from different sectors of industry and falling now into the manufacturing industry. So these two components, which is artificial intelligence, it's all about collecting the data, analyzing it, and giving a more autonomous decision. And that's basically our day-to-day operations, and we try to minimize this type of firefighting. In addition to that, we realize that Internet of Things now is getting a lot of popularity because the internet and connecting all of this needs actually to have a cloud, where earlier we used to have servers. They were able to maintain all of this data, but because now the plants are at a huge proportion, and they are also displaced different areas. So definitely they needed a sort of data, mega data collection point where cloud now exists. This related at the end to the blockchain. What is the blockchain? It's all about the server security. Because they realize that data now is flowing around and some of it is sensitive. As a company currently now, you're all having internal security. But the thing is, once the shift is toward bringing you as a supplier or a client, and they want to share this data so that they can take a quick action, therefore your data should be shared with them. And they want to make sure that this is secure. That's why I say now it's a ledger, later on it won't be. So you'll be forced to implement, for example, cybersecurity softwares, applications, because they will require their data to be safe. As I mentioned earlier, suppose that you recall a part, their service after sales should be notified, their warehouse will be notified, their suppliers will be notified to replenish the parts. At the same time, their production floor will release a job order. Now, all of this, you are part of it. So if you still have an issue with data share and having issues with your security, definitely it's all about sustaining your business with them. That's why we're highlighting it. So now we understand what is the shift, is having them all on board, is having real-time action that will lead to autonomous decisions, autonomous reactions. Now they would like to look at the entire supply chain as a one entity, rather than every time picking up a phone, contacting, having delays, time durations, countries, different zones. All of this, they are trying to look at it as an individual entity. So this gives us an understanding. Why is this shift? What is this about? Okay, another thing is now, suppose I would like to join them. I would like to be on board. So the pillars of this cyber physical system, you want to call it Internet of Things, they are all a face to one coin. Now, we know that the pillars are, part of it is hardware, part of it is software. So we know that robotics is part of it. Additive manufacturing, like, for example, 3D, laser cutting, CNCs, all of these are falling part here. Augmented reality, which is virtual reality, especially used now in the remote maintenance. Then moving onward to the following part, which is new to us, such as system integration, not as in the sense of current company, the ERP, no, it's the entire supply chain with your customer, with your clients. Now, this leads us to the issue of big data, because you're having a lot of real-time information being registered, going through your own entity. It requires the servers. Now, the servers, we know all about it, it's very expensive. And thank God we have cloud. So definitely all this data will be on cloud. And the Internet of Things is all about artificial intelligence, will make sense of this and make sure everything is intact. Leading us to the cybersecurity, why this issue is now handling. We know that industry is the moving part of the world. So when all of this moved, it had an effect on the cybersecurity. All of this related to the customer and the supplier made a big issue with the data share, and therefore it became a very crucial part. So you see now a lot of people, they start with cybersecurity because the clients or the suppliers are requesting this. So this is said, just now we had a brief intro. We are having a glimpse. Now I would like to leave you with my colleague, Mr. Dilip George. They have actually experienced a vast, major project, and we hopefully will be able to have detailed understanding of what they went through. And I leave the floor to you, Mr. Dilip, to proceed, please.
Thank you, Dr. Badr. I will share my screen.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody, and Salam Alaikum. Before we start, I just wanted to introduce what is Fulat. So in Fulat, Fulat is an integrated steel company. It has got two companies in the group. One is Bahrain Steel, which is a pelletizing company, and second one is Sulb, which is an integrated steel company. So what we mean by pelletizing is that we buy iron ore from different mines across the world, from Brazil, from Sweden, from Canada, and we bring this iron ore by vessels to our jetty, which is, we have a dedicated captive jetty here, and then we process that into something called pellets. And these pellets then become the raw material for the steel producers based in the region. Some of it is consumed captively by Sulb. They convert these pellets into something called DRI. That DRI is melted in an electric arc furnace into molten steel, which is cast into something called billets and blooms. And then that billets and blooms are rolled into structural steel. We also sell to customers like Hadid, which takes it into their DRI plant, melts it, and converts it into rebars, which people must be familiar with. So we are the starting point for all the steel producers in the region. We add value to our pellets by processing it further in Sulb. So it's an integrated steel operation. We compete in the international markets. So we compete with most of the steel producers in the region and across globally. So for us, being cost competitive and being at the cutting edge of technology is very critical if we have to stay relevant in the global market. So one of the things we realized is that as companies were moving into digital technologies, we had to also follow, because to remain relevant and competitive. So it took us about 3 years to prepare our digitalization plan, because we were not very clear how to go about it. So we engaged a consultant called McKinsey, who prepared a roadmap for us. What we realized is that many companies, they go and buy technologies. People are familiar with ERPs, which were initially deployed, such as SAP and Oracle, where you go and buy a SAP product and then you implement it in the company. Most of the times, this implementation is led by the IT team, and then it is rolled out to the organization to digitalize the processes in the company or to automate the processes. But unlike an ERP, when you go for a digital project, you can't buy something ready-made from the market and implement it. It is something which it's a very different way of implementation than the traditional ERP implementations. So we see a lot of companies buy products, but it doesn't then give them the benefit, because they don't bring the changes which are required in the organization to transition from a traditional business model to a digital business model. So I'll just share with you what we went through. I think Dr. Badr has given a good introduction of what Industry 4.0 is about. What has changed is, I'll just capture in a summary what are the changes which recently happened and which gave a kind of a boost to digitalization. First thing is that companies are capturing more and more data. What it means is that we have PLCs, we have level 2 systems, we have level 1 systems, and then we have the ERPs, which is generating a huge amount of data, which is a massive amount of data. The statistics says that in the last 2 years, about 90% of the data has been created. So most of the companies, they have fantastic sources of data, but it is not being used because we didn't have the tool to use it. Yeah? The second thing which has happened is that there is digitalization of processes, and computing power has become very cheap. Earlier, there is a statistic which says that there is more RAM in an iPhone 5 than the memory in the Apollo 11 computer which went to space, because computing power has become so cheap that it is affordable now to deploy huge computing power without spending too much of money. The third thing which has happened is that the automation. There is huge amount of automation which is taking place across the value chain in the operations, mainly because of development of technologies such as robotics and sensors. These have changed completely how processes are conducted in the operations. And the fourth thing is, of course, the consumers are demanding more and more. There is a drive from the from the customer side to be more transparent for every organization. So they ask for certain digital tools to be deployed to improve the customer interaction with the organization. So that is a big driver of the change which we are seeing. The 4 levers that we are talking about, these are advanced analytics, which means that you build data models, which analyze the data that you have in the company, provide, make sense of the relationship between different data points, and then it will give you decision points of what to do next in terms of the process. Process digitalization means that more and more processes can be done by the system. We need less manual interaction to conduct a process. Dr. Badr touched about, Mr. Fareed had touched about robotic process automation. This is one of the things which has happened because of process digitalization. Robotics and automation is, of course, what I talked about. There's automation of equipments which is taking place and which is improving the way we conduct the operations in the plant. And also it requires less manual intervention. New business building is something like, if we saw how Amazon transformed the way we buy things. So there are new businesses being created because of digitalization. Another example is blockchain, which is becoming very popular. So these 4 levers have given a push to digitalization across the organizations. So based on what we went through, we have kind of come up with a recipe if organizations are thinking about digital transformation. The first and the most important thing is that we need to create upfront a roadmap, which is the most critical thing, because there are so many things that can be done, but having a roadmap is absolutely critical. Otherwise, you would be lost on which projects to do and which to prioritize. So we took the help of McKinsey, which is one of the world leaders in digital transformations. They also have experience in doing transformation projects for steel industries in Europe. So they came with the domain knowledge, which is the steel industry knowledge, and they also brought their knowledge about how to do digital transformation projects. So we had a fantastic consultant to handhold us in the initial part of the journey. The second thing we need to do is we have to build new capabilities in the organizations. These capabilities currently do not exist in a traditional organization. You need data scientists, you need data engineers, you need data architects. These are skills which are newly acquired by the people. You don't usually find it in an organization. You need to either recruit new people or you need to reskill your existing staff so that they get data engineering or data scientist skills. Then you have to go into creating a backbone. This backbone is mainly like a data lake, where you need to cleanse the data. Like I said, there is a huge amount of data being generated in the organization, but it cannot be just used as it is. It has to be cleaned and it has to be structured in a certain way so that it can be analyzed by models which you can put on top of this data. The fourth thing is that you need to have the right organization structure to enable the digital transformation. Why this is important is that, like I said, in case of a traditional ERP implementation, the implementation effort is usually led by the IT team. But when you do digital transformation, you don't have a central digital team which leads the change. The change is led from within the operations. So you have an operations team, usually they are engineers. You need to reskill them so that they learn some amount of programming. We've taught our people in Python programming. There is a support which is given by a digital officer, but most of the work on this digital projects are done by the people who are on or in the mainstream operations. But they have to be reskilled so that they are able to build the models that is required for digital transformation. Then, of course, lastly is that we need a sustainable execution. So this is not a one-off project. Like when we did the ERP implementations, we had SAP implementation, which went on for about 6 to 9 months. And then at the end of 9 months, we said, now ERPs go live. It is ready to go live. We go live and people start using it. In case of a digital project, there is no go live date. There are many small projects being done, which are then deployed into operations. But the journey doesn't stop. It is a continuous journey, because transformation comes incrementally. It doesn't come with a big bang. So you need to create an environment where there is sustainable execution of digital projects. You need to, of course, manage that change, and then you need to put data governance principles in place and how the assets of the company, because data becomes a big asset. They say the new data is the new oil. So the data of the company is extremely valuable. We need to have certain principles in place to make sure that data is not misused or mismanaged, basically. So, like I said, we have two companies. We have Bahrain Steel, which is the pelletizing company. This is a snapshot of what digital projects we identified initially when we built our roadmap. So I'll just take you through some very high-level ones. Like I said, we bring iron ore to our jetty, which comes in vessels. Then it is taken to the stockyard. From the stockyard, it is blended here and then taken to the plant, and then it is converted into pellets. Yeah? So first thing we did is that, these are not in a particular pattern, except that these are the digital projects we wanted to focus on. So there is no, a sequence to it. We just identified the projects we would like to do. For example, the first one was, one of the things we did was that we wanted to use analytics to understand, because we get different qualities of iron ore. We want to understand that how the different grades of iron ore has an impact on our final product, which is the pellets that we produce. So because different iron ore qualities have different buying prices, it is very important that we optimize our costs by blending the right kinds of ore to produce the quality that our customer wants us. But initially, this was being done by a person or by a team of people. But we have been able to automate this using it is possible to automate this using models to create a kind of a trend in terms of how different kinds of ores interact with each other and how does it create a certain quality that we produce. The second one I can talk about is that how do we use analytics to improve and stabilize our pellet quality. This again is related to how we blend our ore, but different ores have different kinds of properties, which each different customer has got a different process. So when they use our pellets, the pellets behave differently in their equipment. It is not that it behaves in the same way across all our customers. Depending on the technology they have a different value for our pellets. So we have to fine tune the quality of our pellets to meet the customer's specific requirements. So that we do it through analytics also. We introduced Ariba, which is a buying platform to interact with our suppliers. So all our suppliers now are on the Ariba. Ariba is by SAP. SAP has a platform called Ariba, where they have a lot of vendors they have onboarded onto Ariba. And if you become part of this Ariba platform, then you get access to many vendors, and then you can digitally interact with them. So they can invoice you through Ariba, they can send you the delivery notes through Ariba, they can see the status of their invoices, at what stage of processing they are through Ariba. So this becomes like your cloud for interacting with your suppliers. Forecasting vessel travel times, we get about 72 vessels, which are large vessels. We import about 12 million tons every year of iron ore. And our jetty has a certain capacity. It cannot get unlimited number of vessels at any time. If you bring a vessel and it waits, you're not able to unload it on time, then of course there is a demurrage you have to pay to the vessel owner. So planning of vessel arrivals becomes very critical. Now, as you know, vessel arrivals are subject to many factors, the voyage time it takes, the bunkering it does. Bunkering means, it stops for fuel. The weather on the way when it is coming, that can delay a vessel. When it arrives in Bahrain, the Bahrain weather can have an impact on, whether the vessel can come in immediately or it waits outside the Bahrain waters till the weather improves. So all that data, we need to put it into a model, and then we can plan the arrival of the vessel more accurately. It becomes critical because we have very little cushion in our jetty unloading capacity. So planning these vessel arrivals in a very fine and precise manner becomes very important for managing our costs. Then we stock this iron ore in a stockyard where we need to blend them. We need to, as per the requirement of the customers, we can automate that, the stacking of the iron ore at the yard, and also the reclaiming of the iron ore to be taken to the plant. This is a process automation. This is a robotic automation, which is possible. Then we have maintenance through condition-based monitoring, where we attach devices to our equipment, which continuously monitors the state of the equipment by measuring the vibrations of the equipment. These are mainly used to manage the maintenance of motors, and we have gas turbines in our company. The gas turbines are very expensive equipment. It has to operate 24/7. And you need to continuously monitor the state of the gas turbines. If you don't manage it properly, it can break down. The breakdowns are very expensive, and if it breaks down, of course, you don't get power because we produce our own power. So monitoring these equipments continuously on a real-time basis becomes very important and critical for the operations. That we can do it through condition-based monitoring. We have digitalized our maintenance planning, so that we have more uptime in the plant. We are operating at full capacity. When you operate at full capacity, you don't want the equipments to fail. So preventive maintenance becomes extremely critical. When you have too many equipments in the plant, it is very difficult to manually plan preventive maintenance. So we have digital tools which can plan the preventive maintenance to ensure that there is no equipment which was skipped in preventive maintenance, that there was that everything which, like for example, if there's an oil change for a particular small equipment, it has been done on time when it is required to be done. If it requires calibration, it is properly scheduled for calibration. Otherwise, you would have unplanned breakdowns in the plant. We have also used something called a digital twin, where you have the full plant operation, which especially the critical equipments, large ones, where you can create a digital twin of that equipment, so that you have a digital model of that plant, and you can then build different scenarios. It becomes critical when you're trying to improve your costs. Each and every incremental improvement has a small impact, but when you take it on a full production volume, it has a huge impact. Even a 1 cent improvement has, a big impact on our operations because of the volumes that we process. This is Sulb, which is our downstream, where they take pellets and then convert it into steel. These are the projects we identified for Sulb. The critical equipment in any steel producing company is the DRI plant, which converts the pellets into DRI, and then the electric arc furnace, which converts the DRI into molten steel. It is a very complex process which happens in the electric arc furnace. It is very difficult to manually fine-tune it. So you can use the analytics to improve the performance of the electric arc furnace, where most of the costs are incurred. So if you have even a small incremental improvement in the operations, the impact on the bottom line is huge. So since it is manually difficult to track all the parameters which have an impact on the cost, it is more efficient if you build a model, an analytics model, which continuously is drawing data from different plant systems. You have the L1, L2 plant systems, which is, every second it is churning data, it is throwing out data. That data then gets captured into this analytics model, and it is then analyzed to see, how can we improve the process. Now, if you have an operator who's doing this, he would look at it, I would say, in certain time intervals, like 1 hour or half an hour. But if you have a digital model, if you have an analytics model, it is continuously analyzing information. When it is continuously analyzing information, it can make continuous improvements in the process, and that can have a huge impact on the cost. So you don't need to depend on somebody, a person who is monitoring the process with his eye or looking at the screen. You can completely leave it on a data model, which will make sure that every data input which is coming is analyzed, and it evaluates what should be the impact on the process parameters, so that you have the most efficient operations running 24/7, which in a human environment is very difficult to do. I talked about the maintenance. Again, we are planning to implement that to improve the maintenance in Sulb. We have developed a customer platform in Sulb to improve the customer interaction. So we have used SAP's cloud platform to create a portal for our customers. Sulb has maybe 150 customers. Bharat Steel has about 6-7 customers. And so when you have a higher number of customers, it's very difficult to make sure that all of their needs are continuously met by a team. You need a very big team to manage that. So what we have done is we have created a portal. The customers, place their orders through this portal. Then they track their order progression through the organization. They say when it has been put for planning, when it is under production, when it is ready for dispatch, when it has been dispatched, when it's on the truck, when it arrives there at their plant, they get to know that. And of course, all the documents they need for customs clearance, for VAT, all that is available in this portal. They just need to download it. Before we used to courier it or we used to email it. So there were delays at that time. Now the customer has more control on the process, because he knows at any time where his order is. Is it delayed? It is coming on time. If it is on the way, that has hugely improved our customer satisfaction because of this tool that we created. We have a plan to develop a micro pricing tool. Our product in Sulb is, it has many parameters which decide the pricing of the product, whether what grade it is, what length it is, what thickness it is, what application it is. So when you want to incorporate all these parameters for the pricing, manually it is difficult to do it. But if you have a pricing tool which is based on analytics, you can easily do that. We have a plan to do an e-catalog like what you have in Amazon, where you can go and order things online if it is available. We are using that to sell our slow-moving products, where there is an occasional requirement from a customer. So if they need to do that, they can go to that portal and then order it as per their requirement. We have a plan to we produce something called billets, which then is rolled into sections. Now there is a standard length of a billet which is 12 meters, but when it is rolled into sections, even a small half-meter change in the billet length has an impact on the cost. So based on our end products that we want to produce, we can push back into the electric arc melt shop, saying that what should be the length of the billets which should be produced, so that the roll shop can, the rolling mill can optimally roll that, and there is less of wastage. So that improves our cost. We are trying to deploy automation into high-risk manual tasks. Like I said, in Sulb, the main process is the electric arc furnace, which is you take molten steel in a ladle and it is carried around inside the plant to the caster. It's a high-risk operation. To avoid risk to the people who are involved, what we do is that we automate that movement of the molten steel, so that we expose our people less to the risk of spillage of molten steel. If that happens, it's very dangerous for the people who are working in the plant. So as far as possible, we in the dangerous areas, we avoid exposing our employees to any hazards inside the plant because of the process. Like I said, we are also improving our maintenance time by planning better, and we can also optimize our inventory levels because the planning improves with the kind of data that we get from the organization. So this is a high-level implementation strategy for anybody who wants to get into digitalization. We need to prioritize so each of these boxes that you see, these are different use cases or project digitalization projects we wanted to do. We prioritize that based on according to the time period that we want to deploy this. We take up the ones which has the most financial impact to make sure that that the organization benefits in terms of cost, and then we take up the projects which are nice to do, but which has an impact on the process improvements in the business. But this prioritization of the projects, the previous slides, I showed you the projects that we shortlisted to do. In this slide, we are prioritizing which we will take it first and which we will take it in subsequent periods. After we create or identify the digital projects, we create a use case for each digital project. What it means is that we create this one-pager for every digital project. This is called a use case, where we first document what is the current situation. Then we document what is going to be the proposed solution to the improvement that we are planning to do. We put the timeline, we put the benchmarks, and then we go into the business case, which shows that what is going to be the impact from this project. Like in this project that where we are optimizing the electric arc furnace process, we expected that the impact would be $1 to $2 million per year. The cost of doing that is about $1.6 to $4 million, depending on how complex it is. The feasibility of doing this is medium. If it is high, we prefer to do it. But if it is medium, we have to be careful before we do it. The payback we anticipate from this project is 1.7 years. So we generally try to recover our investments in any digital projects that we do as quickly as possible. If it is not possible to recover the investment, we do not do that digital project. There are certain digital projects which improve the process but doesn't bring any value to the company in terms of savings. So if there's no savings, we don't take up those projects. That is how we prioritize which ones to do and which ones to skip or to delay. So these are again the impact, which is listed out in terms of, so in this use case where we are trying to improve the electric arc furnace, we want to improve the throughput in the DRI plant by 2 to 3%. This has an impact in terms of costs or additional revenue for us. We want to improve the yield of the electric arc furnace. A small incremental yield has a big impact in terms of costs. We want to reduce our electricity consumption. We want to reduce, although it will reduce the electricity consumption, it increases the gas consumption in the DRP. So that becomes a cost for us while doing this change. And then there is a lowering of yield in the DRP plant, which again is a cost. So there are 2 negatives and there are 3 positives. So we then take a net and see, is it worth doing the project or not? And then we outlined the cost, which we expected was 1.6 to 4 million for this project. And for each digital project that we do not take it up unless the operations team completes this use case one-pager. Because then this becomes the monitoring tool for us to see that how is the project going. First of all, of course, you need to monitor it as it is being implemented. And then when you say that the project is completed, you need to monitor it to see that, the payback that you expected from this project, the savings that you expected from these projects are being realized or not. So this becomes a control tool for you when you do a digital project. So this is just a snapshot of how we started our digital journey. We started with an impact focus where we took up about 3 or 4 cases, which we wanted to deploy first to show the impact to our board. Because, when you do these projects, you need the board approval because there is a certain amount of CapEx you need to create or you need to get approval from the board before you can do this project. So we took up about 3 cases initially. We got the board approval for these CapEx. And we told the board that what would be the savings from these projects. So the board has asked us to present this, savings which are expected in Q1 2022. We go to the board saying that this is what we spent for the three digital projects we did. This is the savings we anticipated. This is the savings we have realized. This is the savings we will realize going forward also. So the board has to be, involved in this in the projects because you don't want to do projects just for showcasing your digital status. You need to do projects which brings value to the business. Value can be cost savings, improve customer interaction, improve processes, reduction in safety incidents. So you have to decide what is the value. And once you decide on the value, then you need to make sure that those values are realized. Otherwise, there will be many digital projects being done, but it will not benefit the organization. So once we have the board consent to deploy this and take it forward, then we have a scale-up phase. And that is when we arrive at the digital transformation. So then we prioritize which ones have to be done at different time intervals. We create schedules based on the waves, we call it, 12-week waves. And after every wave, we see that, what is the impact, whether we are on the right track or not. So these are the different, on the left-hand side, what you see are the different technologies which are being deployed, like advanced analytics, process digitization, the IT infrastructure, the capability building. This is very critical because most of the people in the organization would not have the capability to do the digital projects. In the first phase, we worked with a consultant, which is McKinsey, who was helping us to create this impact projects. But going forward, then you need to train your people. You need to create a center of excellence for the organization where these trained people then will train further people. But if you don't have trained people within, then you'll always be depending on external consultants, which is quite expensive. The most optimal way of doing projects is to have an internally trained or internally available team, which are familiar with analytics. Mainly, it is analytics and process digitization expertise that you need. Then you need to, of course, create the governance for this. Make sure that whatever you set out to achieve is being achieved. The Center of Excellence will continue to provide support to the different digital teams which are rolling out digital projects. So when you roll it out, of course, you deliver impact and you build in-house capabilities and you put enablers for sustainable execution. Like I said, digital projects don't stop at a certain point in time. They are always happening within the organization. It is a continuous improvement. It is not a big bang improvement. So these are our current projects that we have done. These are actually ongoing projects. Some of it have been completed, some are ongoing. I'll just run through this very briefly. So we have deployed our condition monitoring and maintenance, which I said is a preventive maintenance tool. We have outsourced this to an organization who have deployed a set of people who carry out the monitoring of our equipment. They provide reports to us based on the monitoring they conduct. It costs us about $1 million for both Bahrain Steel and Sulb. But they have about 4 engineers in each plant, so about 8 to 10 people in the plant who are continuously monitoring our different moving equipments like motors, gas turbines, those kind of equipments. And they give us a report that which are the equipments which are likely to fail. So when you have this kind of report, then you focus on the equipment to see that, to make sure that it doesn't fail when it is required, preventive maintenance carried out on time. There are also reports which says, for example, a bearing, there could be a crack in the bearing. Before, what we used to do is that we used to, whenever there was a small defect in the bearing, we used to change it, which costs us money. Now, when we do condition monitoring, it tells that there is a small crack, but it still has a life for another 500 hours. So instead of changing it immediately when there's a crack, now we wait for another 500 hours before we change it. So we extend the life of that consumable. So it costs us less money. So we have anticipated that we'll be able to save about $4.5 million from this on annual basis by reducing the consumption of spare parts and increased availability of the plant. SAP Ariba, like I said, this is a platform for suppliers. On this platform, you have suppliers which are already onboarded. You can also onboard your specific suppliers, and you can conduct reverse auctions. Which means that if there is a standard product which you want to buy and there are many suppliers, you can ask them to bid for it, for the contract. So we have been able to save money from reverse auctions. We expect that we'll continue to earn about $1.5 million to $2 million annually. This is an annual cost because SAP Ariba is on cloud. So when they are on cloud, they will ask you to pay annual cost for it. So this cost us about $300,000. SAP Fieldglass again is SAP's product. It is for managing your outsourced manpower. For Fulat, about 40% of our manpower is outsourced, that is contract manpower, which doesn't come under payroll. But it is very critical to manage this outsourced manpower. Otherwise, you don't know what they're doing. It is costing you money. You don't know whether the organization is actually paying for all the people who come to the premises, or they are actually fictitious employees. So it improves the controls because everything end to end is on a platform where the user will input his requirements. It goes out for the contractor he submits his CVs through the system of the employee he wants to send to you. You can see whether he's got a valid CPR or not. You can see what is his skills. Then you can, see whether he's the best person suitable for the position you ask for, or you want somebody else. Once he comes to the plant, he comes in through the attendance. He swipes the card at the gate. Then then we know, and that is connected to Fieldglass. His timing is again, managed through the system. At the end of the month, the time sheet of this contract manpower goes out from us to the vendor. Earlier, we used to get time cards from the vendor and we had to sit and check it. In this case, what our system creates a timesheet which goes to the vendor, and then he bills based on that timesheet that our system has created, which reduces the checking for us. It improves the controls for us. So there is no issue of duplicate time cards being processed or fictitious employees being paid. Only the people who have actually come to the plant are paid. RPAs are where you use products like Automation Anywhere to automate your process. For example, our invoice processing for vendors is automated. There is a bot, we call them. These are like like robots. So it's a short form of robots, but these are digital robots. So it's called bots. They receive the invoice through the mail. It will check the invoice. It will compare it with your purchase order, which is in SAP. It will compare it with the delivery receipt, which has been received by the warehouse. And if everything matches, it will process the invoice for payment. It goes to finance for payment. Again, there is a bot which looks at this invoice. It will check whether all the controls have been satisfied. That is, the material has been received. It is the invoices according to the purchase order. And whenever it is due for payment, the bot will automatically schedule it for payment. From there, there's a payment bot which takes it over. It will automatically prepare a transfer request, which goes through the system to the bank, and it is connected to the bank's payment system. And from there, the payment is released to the vendor after the authorized signatories approve it online. So we have eliminated checks and we have eliminated manual transfers. It is all happening through the system. The authorized signatories, when they approve the payment, they get to see what are the documents which are being processed to make the payment. But it is all digital. It is all online. There are no physical papers being which is moving around. This is something which I mentioned, that we forecast the vessel travel time, which is from the iron ore supplier to our jetty. The forecasting travel times is extremely critical to manage the unloading operations in our plant, and to make sure that there is no bunching of vessels which can lead to demurrage. We annually save about $2 to $3 million. We had to do a one-time investment of $0.8 million to create this model. We call it Pyxis, and this model is, it has got machine learning embedded in it. So one of the things we get is that the model, as it is used over the years, it improves on its own. That is what is machine learning, of course. Yeah, as it gets more and more experience, it improves the predictive skills of the model. So it uses AI and ML to improve that. So it behaves like a human being. With experience, a human being gets better in its job. Same way, the analytical model also, as time passes, as it gets more experience, as it gets more data, it improves the predictability of or its predictive output that it gives you. So the model keeps improving as it gains experience. This is a project which is ongoing, which is automation of vessel unloading. When a vessel comes to our jetty, it has to be unloaded in a certain time. If that doesn't happen, of course, then there could be demurrage we have to pay. And then, of course, we are improving the process set points to improve the costs in our plant. This is the last two slides. I just want to show you some pictures. This is condition monitoring. This is like a motor where the condition monitoring equipment is attached. We also attach IoTs to this equipment, and then all the vibration is captured on this machine, and then it is analyzed, and then we get an output. They send a recommendation saying that whether maintenance should be undertaken or not. This is a small video of the unloading operations, where these are our grabs which go into the vessel to grab the iron ore as it comes out. So this is all being done automatically. There is no operator. Before, we used to have operators who used to do these activities. When you get out iron ore from the hold of the ship, there is a lot of dust flying around. But in case of a machine, it doesn't need to see. It just senses. There are sensors attached to this equipment, and this sensors send signal to the central processing, and then accordingly it moves the equipment. So before this, the swinging of the arm, swinging of this reclaimer was being done manually by the operator. But there are certain areas he cannot see, so he could not do this efficiently. But the machine does it perfectly. It unloads it uniformly without any issue. Whether it is dusty, dark, there is light, no light. Whether it is very precise handling, like this one is a very precise. It is going to the edge of the hold, where a human being finds it very difficult to do such precise unloading. It is so close to the hold; it's about 10 centimeters away, which is impossible to achieve manually. But the machine can do it without any problem, because it's being done with sensors. Sorry, the video is a little grainy. So people sit in the control room and manage this automation. They don't need to be inside. Earlier, the people were sitting on top of the hold and managing the unloading operations. Now they sit in a control room and manage it. Before we had 5-6 people for every unloading operation. Now one person can do it centrally. So this is how they can digitally see the unloading operations using a sensor view. So the sensor is from the top, giving signals on where the swing should go, and accordingly it does that. This is an amazing automation, extremely complex but done beautifully. That's it. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dilip. It was very good to see the roadmap, exactly what has been taken through this and who was taking on board of this massive project. Definitely there will be some questions in the Q&A regarding some technical items. We'll leave that later on. I'm going to now move on to the second part, which is the survey that has been conducted, or the study that has been conducted. I'm just going to share with you my screen. Here we can see that as part of our committee's goals was to actually see Bahrain's current situation and what is the challenges, or what the challenges and what to be recommended. So we conducted a survey, a study that will measure the current industrial movement awareness within the local market, the level of adopted automation, level of digitization, and finally understand what are the challenges for whoever is pursuing this type of transformation, or who is in this current state, to have it at a faster pace. So we can see that the survey had 42 companies participating in it, with around 72% being Bahraini local companies. This shows the spread that it covered from SMEs up to large companies by 33%. Regarding with maturity, which is very important, how mature are these participants in this study? As we can see, 80% have a maturity level beyond 9 years. So it gives a fair understanding of what they've been through. Now, regarding the awareness about the movement, the advancements of this technology, as you can see, 57% are very aware, and 41% are somewhat aware. This is a good indication whether it was pressured or from an external bodies or what's going on in the market, but the awareness is there. It means that people are curious about it and they would like to see more info about this. Another thing, when we asked about the key success factors, were they aware about this? I mean, how to achieve this transformation? As you can see, 59% are very aware, 41% are somewhat aware. Another good indication that also what gives you the edge on reaching this vision. Now, as we know, there are two compartments, hardware and software. So it was very important to understand what sort of technology is being adopted according to this new advancement. Here we can see that the main 5 adopted technologies were resembling in the following. 61% resembled in smart mobile devices such as tablets and phones. 41% resided in barcodes, RFDs, radio frequency labels. 39% PLCs, and with 27% resembled in performance monitoring sensors and wireless machines. Now, this is said, we can see that there is still a deficiency within the advanced technologies, and especially where applicable, for example, 3D printing, autonomous production workstations. GBS is very important for the supply chain connection with all the parties at end, autonomous robots, and as you can see, remote maintenance and further down. So it means that works need to be done to catch on board this advancement. Now, we mentioned that software is part of this mix. So what we try to do is to understand what sort of software and IT technologies have been adopted. And what we mean here, if you see this graph, it represents the business units, the IT department, after sales service, logistics, human resources, production operations, sales, purchasing, and finance. According to this spectrum, we can see the respondents where they have actually invested and where investments need to be done. So according to the major investments, beyond 80% of the respondents have invested in the production and operation, which is normal because we are in the industry and manufacturing, let's say, discipline. Now, second come to this with 50% to 80% investment in the IT. Finally, as we might be aware as well that after sales service has the least area of investment. And this is an area we should try to think about it and improve on it, because again, having a good sales, having good operations, we still need to cover on the after sales service and embedding more artificial intelligence and software applications within this part. So now we know that investment is very important. The thing is, without the hardware and software, we need to understand what sort of a return. The return is basically on, as mentioned earlier, is the amount of data share, analysis, business intelligence, which is machine learning, the type of improved and predictive and simulation of events. So we needed to know exactly the return on investment according to the current business units. So where were they actually having a greater return? Now, we realized that above 80%, and this is quite normal, that in the finance, they have a lot of data share and analysis. Now, second to that came sales, with 50% to 80% having data share, analysis, sort of, let's say, artificial intelligence within it so that they can have better forecast. Now, important to us is to find that investments, even though have been done in the IT and the operations, we realize that this has a big weakness regarding having the IT with the business intelligence. That means artificial intelligence embedded in it due to LePlante integration. after sales service, as well as logistics. So this is an area that needs to be targeted. And I believe most of the industry companies know about this. Like they start, as you can see, with a progress. If you have any investment, this is the investment, how it takes place. So this is said. Overall, in Bahrain, what we noticed within the participants is there is a need for certain hardware to be embedded in the certain units which are in production, internal logistics, in the procurement, maintenance, the external logistics, sales, and after sales. So this shows that there is an investment requiring hardware, but where applicable, it should be customized according to the company itself. What about the digitization? It takes part as well. We noticed that all of these need to be interlinked, connected, and we can see that Wi-Fi is building up and Bluetooth, and we can see now there is a movement to the fifth generation because we have to have a strong platform. Moving on to the cyber security, which I mentioned earlier. Now, all of this interlinked with your customer, with your supplier, even your own data need to be having a good blockchain and security system in order to prevent any vulnerability within this data. Again, big data needs investments. We all know about that. Artificial intelligence, cloud now is doing a lot of savings based on previous servers. Simulation, definitely we need about how to improve our prediction scenarios and get real-time data. So now we know what is the current market and what needs to be focused on, the exact areas, business units, and what sort of transformation is to be looked at. The other question we have is, worldwide, where are we exactly? Are we behind? Are we in the safe zone? So according to the PwC Strategy Consultancy, they conducted a global digital operations study on Industry 4.0. Now, what they did is they segregated the movement of the automation according to 4 levels, starting with isolated automated workstations that are connected. The whole plant is integrated, is automated, and then moving on to seamless integration beyond the manufacturing, which is basically taking on board the 3 tiers, which are the client as well as the supplier. Finally, where just now Mr. Dilip have also touched on, where you have machine learning outcome, real-time data that will allow autonomous decisions and autonomous actions to be taken. So on average, we can see that currently, worldwide, we are still in the safe zone, where in Bahrain, if you compare it, we have fragmented automated workstations that are connected. And we can see 25% are moving towards full automation within the plant level. Now, what's important to us, because we are in the middle of the downstream, is the following. This is a breakdown of Middle East and Europe, America and Asia. We can see that there is a greater push towards moving in beyond the manufacturing, which is going to be demanding us as suppliers or customers to be on board. And we can see that, again, there is a shift towards having a real time. And why I say there is a demand, because at the end of the day, if you cannot supply them with the data that you are requested to provide, their real-time action autonomous will not be fully functional. So it's a two-way game. And that's why I'm saying it's a ledger now. Later on, these people will require us if we would like to be or sustain in this business. Moving on, we asked the participants, what were the greatest drivers to actually pursue this automation? We realized that the top 5 drivers were improved productivity with 85%, reduced costs with 78%, more or less improved quality is the same. Customer requirement, however, 59%, and improving decision-making process is 61%. To us, what's important we can see, and customer requirement being taking part within the greatest drivers. We were not accustomed to this earlier within the automation or within the factory, let's say, model. Now, we know that there is a push, so definitely we believe in the future, this will have a greater impact and will be coming at a higher driver. So this needs to be taken into consideration. That's why we're stressing on it with regard to sustainability. Now, we all know that also Mr. Dilip spoke that to have a decision, you have two parties that needs to be checked. What is the basis of return on investment and the efficiency gain? Now, according to the study, the participants in that study worldwide indicated that throughout their investment, the expected return on investment over 5 years will be 15%. Regarding the efficiency gain, again, based on their point of view and currently seeing the current adopted transformation, they believe it will be around 12.3%. So now we can feel what sort of a return on investment, what sort of efficiency gain, especially when I come to the second point. We asked the participants what were the greatest challenges that either to pursue this or that you faced. Now we realized the following: definitely high financial investment requirements at 83%. It was not a surprise to us. Difficulty to upgrade the existing machines at 49%. This is an issue, I'm going to come to it. It was quite unique to us. Lack of digitally skilled labor. Again, this is anticipated at 44%. Absence of local service provider, 34%. Unclear return on investment or rate of return is 32%. Now, to us, being a local market, these are two important aspects to focus on, and I believe whoever is going to be joining on board or pursuing this. Difficulty to upgrade is linked to the absence of local service. What I mean by difficulty to upgrade the existing machines is that you might have the fund, but you will end up having a problem. Either the current investment that you have done, you didn't recover it, okay? Or even if you're going to go to through this process, you don't be left with fragmented, automated workstations, because the return on investment is all about analyzing the data share, having a better response. So basically, this was an issue, and it's important to notify that this is an important area. It's not only about the infrastructure, it's also about the current investments that have been done over the last 10 years, still they haven't been recovered. Also, there are certain machines that need to have a further infrastructure to be embedded. Why do I link it to absence of local service? We have local service who are providing digital commercial applications, but when I need, such as Mr. Dilip point he raised, that they had to deal with international, I need a guideline. I need to make sure that it's a process that is actually going seamlessly. I know it's digitalized. We have digital commercial local service provider, but we need to understand if they are suitable for this type of industry or specifically customized to us. So this is said. The question is, what's next? What needs to be next to foster this digital transformation? What we believe as a committee and the people who worked on this topic is the following. On a local authority level, As part of the national strategy, there should be a low interest fund for companies who are interested in factory automation. At the same time, there should be a fund for companies who want to become local service providers that enable the industry to move forward. In addition, we looked at there should be a support, as you know, incentive schemes to promote the factory automation or digitization. Regarding the Higher Education Authority, which should take part as it is a part of the national strategy, and technical training institutes should include artificial intelligence and digital skills within their educational programs. How about Bahrain Chamber of Commerce? Where they fit in this? As actually, they need to assist the firms and connect them with local and international experienced consultants companies in the field of the automation transformation or digital transformation. Finally, to whoever is attending this, what needs to be done as an enterprise level? Company strategy should incorporate initiatives that address factory automation. Why? Because to ensure sustainability. So it is important. People call it internal strategy, which is a detailed strategy. However, it should take now part within this overall picture. Plan future company investments to include automation, because you cannot wake up one day and say, I'm going to digitize my factory or a segment of the factory. Therefore, future investment should at least dedicate certain amounts according to a planned process. This can be done now, which has to be done, which is improve in-house data share and analytical capabilities. Finally, we believe this is going to be a rule of thumb that future recruitment screening process should focus on IT and digital working experience. By reaching this, I believe we have given a good indication of what sort of technology is moving towards, and it was a good experience that we saw Bahrain Steel give us the roadmap. They went through it, and as well as we did a study, we highlighted the areas of concerns. Now, I would like to open the floor for Q&A, where all are free to ask questions, whether in the chat or they can raise the hand. So please have a go, and whatever you need to focus on, please, we'll be more than happy to accommodate your question.
في عندنا ابو عبد الرحمن حامد الزياني رافع يده، تفضل. Mr. Hamad Zayani, are you there?
يمكن
maybe the mic. We need to unmute him.
He needs to, so ask to unmute, says.
Sheikh, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you now.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام. تفضل.
أبو محمد ودكتور بدر and Dilip, I congratulate you. This is a fantastic effort. The subject is excellent. The presentation is excellent, as well as the material that's done by Dilip is excellent. If I may kindly ask you, I'd like the recording of this so that I can teach it to my own people in my industrial outfit, how to use the 4th generation for business. But also, I'd like to recommend that you make this a case study to be taught in Bahrain University. We need an integration of successful experience with the young minds so that they can make it an adaptable way of living. Again, I'd like to thank you. The information is superb. I was extremely excited about the precision handling of raw material, which is all tied up to the system. This is excellent, Dilip. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Zayan. Thank you.
في الحقيقة, the team really worked hard. They've been working on this. It's a lot of effort has gone into this. It's all, the team. Thanks the team.
And for your information, talking about technology, I start watching you from home, and I am now calling you from my car. I'm on my way. I don't want to miss on my fishing in Durra. So it shows you that technology gives us mobility and gives us efficiency of time.
You can learn and have fun.
Yeah,
that's good.
Thank you, Mohammed. Mashkoor.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else has anything? Oh, Adnan joined us. Welcome, Adnan. he was in another event. Do you want to say something, Mr. Adnan?
Wallahi, as soon as I finished, I joined immediately. And I actually managed to listen to a good part of what was presented. Yes, of course, the team did a very good job. We are very pleased that we've done something that can, now we have evidence, we have data, we have solid information, insight into the issue, that now we can use it and build on it and turn it into action. And this is one of the main objectives of the committee, that we wanted to really benefit the small and medium industry, and generally speaking, the industry sector, so that they reduce the cost, increase efficiency, and go and start digitization. One of the recommendation was, please start, even if it's a small bits will encourage you. We will see the benefit, and you'll invest more, and you will generate enough fund, inshallah, and everybody will be there to support you and really add value to the process. This is the way of the future. We should really start. Thank you very much.
Like you said, Muhammad, and as you could see also in the presentation of Dilip, Mr. Dilip, that the return on investment is very short, is 1.7 years, it's 1.5 years, you get your money back. So it's worthwhile mentioning. So we have Mr. Ahmed bin Khalil. I will ask you to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Tfadal.
Farid and all the group of your industrial committee, thank you very much for this informative presentation. It was really great. I will follow it. As Mr. Zayani said, we are driving and we are following, and sometimes I stop, sometimes I continue. Anyway, what I'm trying to say, the data or the software which was presented by Mr. Dilip, it was really nice. But the study or the data, it was made in a steel company. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. With that, software will work in any industries, like for example, the plastic industries and also the fiberglass industries. Because I have some friends who have this type of business. The other question, would it also benefit for micro, small, and medium enterprises? Because as we know, the ability of the small and micro and small and medium enterprises, their ability of to finance this type of projects, it is too high for them. I don't know how much would it cost this database system which we have been presenting. Thank you very much.
Mr. Dilip, you want to answer that?
Yeah, of course, the technology is, agnostic of the industry. So every industry can implement it. It is only the metals. It can be implemented by all kinds, whether it's retail, it is any manufacturing, whether it's fiberglass or whatever. It doesn't matter. Now, in terms of investment, there are certain things which are expensive. There are certain things which are quite cost effective, like RPAs, which is the bots, robotic process automations, are not very expensive. Even medium-sized companies can go for it. Analytics, it depends on the complexity. So there is no rule to say that, it is expensive or not. Based on the requirement, it is important to get a quote and then decide whether, you have to go ahead with it or not. But like Mr. Badr mentioned, the most important critical point is the return on investment. If there is a return, then it is worth spending the money. If it is not, giving you any savings or value, then there's no point doing it.
Anyone else? If no questions, we'll wrap it up. Oh, there is somebody here. 1 minute. Okay. Unmute yourself, Khuzai, is it?
Qusay Hamouda.
Qusay, yes. Please, go ahead.
First of all, I would like to add my voice to the other gentlemen and thank the Chamber of Bahrain of arranging something like this. We really need the awareness in the industry where it will support us as a digital transformation consultant to introduce or help the movement of Industry 4.0 in the region. I just wanted to add things that we see in the market. Recently, I've been consulting for a factory in Bahrain. What I see the issues that we're facing with the clients, it's number one is the awareness. The industry itself is not yet aware or of it, as Mr. Badr mentioned in the study, they are not yet aware of the impact of the automation. Either they believe in the return of investment or not. Another thing is definitely people, they think that the cost is very high and they think that it is one-time solution that can need to come in. Whereas we know it every change can be in phases, from phase 1 to phase maybe number 10. Mr. Dulip mentioned in his presentation great numbers of the return of investment or even the saving that can happen only by introducing automation. What we would like to see, and that's like maybe my personal input here and like request, that we need more of this initiatives. Thanks to everyone who was a part of it. Where we help to raise the awareness and tell the private sector why automation is important. And as Mr. Dulip said, maybe it's for them a giant elephant when it comes to cost, but then they will be surprised that technology is there. Maybe a few years back, a sensor might cost $1 million. By today, maybe it can cost $100. So.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again. And we would like to see more of this. And thank you again for everything.
Please send us email what topic you want us to discuss in future. It's important, your feedback. So I think Yasser. Yes.
First of all, I'd like to thank the team for the great effort. And let me just add on here that this is not only automation, this is beyond automation. It's the maximum utilization, what we call it the big data, which is talk of the world today. And we talk, Mr. David, he also explained about machine learning and deep learning, artificial intelligence. All this is, which is a subject that everybody is talking about it. Just we need to let everybody be aware in the industrial sectors that with the globalization, that everybody, he's not being automated, who's not cutting the fat within his organization. He will be out of business soon. So it is the opportunity now. People, they have to be aware and wake up and take a quick action. Because this is the world, and right now, whoever is taking the lead, he will capture the maximum market. We can see that certain manufacturing industries in which they relies on cheap labor or on cheap electricity, they will not be able to compete in the future because everybody is becoming to the same level. Like cost of electricity, the same in China, same in Bahrain, same somewhere else. So we cannot compete on cheap electricity. Labors, their prices, it's increasing more and more. So we cannot rely on cheap labors. We have to rely on technology and automation and learn more about big data, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasser. Anybody else? Okay, so that's it. Sir Ahmed, again, you have a question?
Yes, sir, Mr. Farid. I have a small question to Mr. Lee. The data system which you have prepared, and as we know, LME pricing is changing daily. Or even, not even daily, maybe every hour, the LME, the metal price is changing. Is your system or the data system which you have, it can be linked with the LME system, which it could give me the price of today price of the steel or any metal in the international market, because that also will save the manufacturers time in serving and searching for the what we call LME pricing or daily pricing of the international market. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dilip, you want to answer?
Yes, it is possible to do that. We also, for buying iron ore, we depend on a benchmark called Platts price, which is like the LME price. And we have linked our pricing to Platts index, which we download from Platts. They give us the authorization to download that pricing, and then it is linked to our analysis. So yeah, LME pricing information can be downloaded. It can be made available for your analysis.
Right. Thank you very much. Once again, we thank you for participation and thank the team, Mr. Adnan, Dr. Badr, Mr. Dilip, and whoever, Mr. Ahmed, who had great input and worked really hard to get these data and presented to you. Sometimes we don't realize how much work is done behind to get people to participate and give you the data. It's not an easy job, but the team managed to do that in very time-mannerly, and we managed to present it today. I wish we could had more participants, but anyway, the quality is important, not the quantity. Thank you very much and have a good weekend. And please give us your feedback. If you need this presentation also, maybe perhaps we can share it with you. Yeah, send us your feedback and tell us what you want to hear from us. Thank you, and perhaps happy National Day and happy New Year or Christmas, and see you next year.